Well, our second stop is in Tulsa, and we're visiting with Sue Gray, who was host of Oklahoma Gardening from 1986 to 1990. And now she's an extension horticulturist with Tulsa County. And Sue, thanks for having us come today.
Oh, glad to have you here.
Well, you've actually got quite a little orchard project going on here, haven't you?
Yeah, we don't have room for a lot of fruit trees, and so they're all trained to this method called espalier, and it ties in well with the work that I'm doing now with commercial fruit growers. I'm able to experiment with a lot of different varieties in a small space. And this one is an Asian pear, and it's only been in training about 2 or 3 years. And this is a fan design, and you just guide them along using these bamboo stakes. And as you get a new shoot coming up, you just train it along there, and eventually it hardens in place. And this is one that we started last year, and it's just extending on up. And the whole idea with espalier is to keep them in a flat plane. And these have been trimmed back so that eventually you get little fruiting spurs, like you can see right here. And it's a nice way to grow fruit in a small space. If you need to cover them for frost protection in the spring, for instance, if you have things that bloom early like apricots or peaches, you can do that. If squirrels and birds are a problem preying on the fruit when it becomes ripe, you can cover it with bird netting, although that's always an aggravating thing to try to do, but you can do it.
Now, the training on this, it consists of both winter and summer pruning?
That's right. In the winter time, I might do some selective removal of different branches, but basically I'm pruning with just little shears like this. And so often with fruit trees we think we need a saw and great big loppers, but with espalier the whole idea is to stay ahead of it and just trim little bits at a time. For example, here, this shoot hopefully will come on up this rod right here next year, and I have these right here that are going every which way, and the whole idea is just to keep it pruned like that so that you eventually end up with fruiting spurs. And as most of you homeowners know, with fruit, the buds for next year's crop are developing right now, and so the actions we take right now influence that, and this slows the growth of it and helps form more of those fruiting buds for next year.
Okay. Now this is in a fan shape, but you've actually got some other styles over here. Can we take a look at those?
Oh yeah, you can do any shape you want.
Yeah. Now this one here is really nice back in the back, and you don't really have as many bamboo pieces in here.
No, don't need these anymore. Once they get in shape, now this is a regular European pear, and it's been in training for 10 years, and it's pretty well set in place. I have these wires that were put in originally, but basically I don't need the bamboo anymore, and it's a free-form design. I just sort of let everything swirl up and then around, but still, with espalier, you have to constantly be vigilant about pruning little shoots like this one right here. You always want to go back to about 3 leaves and continue to encourage the spur formation so that you get fruit in a small space. If I didn't train it at all, in the summertime I'd get all kinds of vertical growth growing upward, and if I waited till winter to prune that, Brenda, most of my fruit buds would eventually be scattered out all over the place, and this is a way to keep it nice and compact. So it's almost like shearing a hedge, and a lot of people look at this type of work with fruit trees and they think, oh, this is too complicated, I couldn't do this. But if you can grow a hedge in your yard and keep it sheared, it's the same idea. It's just that you pick a design that you want and you bend the branches that way, and then as new shoots come out you just keep them pinched back. And here's one, for example, that I nipped a few weeks ago, and it's trying to put out a little side shoot, and next year I'll probably get fruit spurs there. Here's one that I trimmed last year, and we are going to have a little fruit bud there for next year. So it's just a matter of training it.
Now, in addition to the pears that you have out here, what else do you have growing in espalier?
Well, we've tried a little bit of everything. We have apples, we have some plums, and I can show you the apple trees on down here.
Okay, let's take a look at those.
So Brenda, this is a Royal Gala apple. It's a variety a lot of people enjoy eating, and this just shows you how you could do it in a real small space.
Oh, this is a really pretty one. And what form have you got this trained in, Sue?
This is a candelabra form, and again, it's nothing that takes a real rule book or instructions. You just bend the tree the way you want it to grow. And when I put this out, it was a little 2-year-old nursery tree, and as branches came out lined up with the wires, I just bent those down and pruned others off. and let them grow. And this one's been in training about 8 or 10 years. And as it came over to where I wanted it, I bent it up with the guide of bamboo. And back down here you can see from the trunk we have a branch right here running along to the outside to make this bend in the candelabra. And the top I just sort of let go free form.
Now, does it take a special tree to train in this matter?
Well, you'll be way ahead, especially with apples, if you'll go with an apple that's grafted onto a semi-dwarf rootstock. You could do fully dwarfing, but I haven't found that works as well as a semi-dwarf, such as a Malling 111. It also helps if you have a spur-type tree. Now, this Royal Gala was not a spur gala, but if you look through fruit tree catalogs or go to nurseries, you'll notice that they'll refer to trees as spur type. And my Arkansas black variety is a spur type, and it's much easier to keep in training because it automatically comes out in a little tuft or a little clump of growth instead of long shoots, and so it has stayed in bounds much better, and it's in a fan design and has really held that shape very well for a espalier.
Okay, so that's something to think about if you're going to start this, is to get a dwarf variety and also a spur variety.
Right, dwarf or semi-dwarf and a spur type.
Okay, so now we've been looking at the pome fruits, but you've also got stone fruit that you've got trained this way, and let's take a look at that.
Okay. Yeah, Brenda, with this Japanese plum, the growth habit is quite a bit different than with apples or pears.
Now, what makes it different further?
Well, they set their buds on 1-year-old growth, and they'll make a little spur, but it only lives for a couple of years, and then it dies. And then, of course, with peaches, which is another group of the stone fruits, they need constant renewal. And when you go to a peach orchard, you'll see how they prune them back hard and shear them because the buds are set on 1-year-old wood, and then they eventually sort of peter out or die back. And so I've got to account for that when growing stone fruits on espalier. And with this plum, it's a good example. We have a shoot right back here, and it has spurs on it that are starting to die back. It had a little fruit on it this year, but there's really nothing there now. And so this one grew last year, and now this year it has formed some nice spurs that have fruit buds on them. And this winter, the only pruning I'll do on this is I'll cut out these old parts of the fan design and I'll bring these in place. And I always have to have constant renewal of that going on.
So that's basically the difference, is you got to plan for your renewal a lot better.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Sue, if somebody wanted to check out an espalier tree, where could they find one?
We have a great example at our office. It's at 4116 East 15th Street in Tulsa. Behind the building is an Asian pear that's been in training about 6 years now. And it is in just a flat cordon design, and it's a simple one that anybody could duplicate.
Okay. Well, Sue, it's been fun visiting with you, and we appreciate the tour.
Sure, glad to do it.